Welcome back to the Campus Ministry Show. I'm Father Logue, the host of the show and chaplain at Lancaster Catholic High School. Today, since we're getting close to Christmas, I wanted to talk a little bit about Joseph's role at Christmas time and Joseph's role in the birth of Jesus and all of that and what he might have been thinking, since Joseph is our theme this year, Go to Joseph. So if we picture the classic nativity scene, right? Mary and Joseph in Bethlehem, they're in the manger, Mary's just given birth to baby Jesus, the shepherds are showing up. The wise men aren't quite there yet. They're probably a little ways off. But nonetheless, we have this very standard scene, the scene we're all very familiar with. And famously, as he does everywhere else, Joseph doesn't say anything in this moment. And I was thinking a little bit about what must Joseph be thinking? What is he thinking about as he's standing there watching all of this happen? And I wonder if the thought crossed Joseph's mind that Mary and Jesus would be better off if I weren't involved. Now, what do I mean by that? They had to go to Bethlehem because it was Joseph's family connection. When everyone had to go back to the land of their fathers for this census, Mary was just married to Joseph. Now she had to go with him. And I wonder if Joseph was thinking, if I had not married Mary, she would be home in Nazareth with her family, with other people who knew her. She and this baby wouldn't be in this manger in the middle of nowhere, far away from everyone we know and love. Wouldn't it be better off if they weren't connected to me like this and they could just be home right now? Now, that thought was a temptation, and I can't imagine Joseph entertained it for long, even if it occurred to him. And so I want to take a moment just to think of it almost like a It's a Wonderful Life style, where George Bailey has his famous dilemma of, man, everyone would be better off if I just weren't around. Well, what would things be like if he just wasn't around? So what would things be like if Joseph wasn't there for them? Or if Joseph hadn't listened to the angel and said, no, I'm not going to marry Mary. I'm not going to welcome her into my home. I'm going to cut off this relationship and leave her on her own. Well, for one, yeah, they might not have been in the manger, but the manger is exactly where God wanted them to be. Because they were connected to Joseph and he had to bring them with him to Bethlehem and they wound up in this manger, first of all, Joseph was there to make sure that the prophecy that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem was fulfilled. Joseph was there to make sure that Jesus was born in the town called the House of Bread. That's what Bethlehem means. And Joseph was there to make sure that because there would be no room in the inn, Jesus would be put in a manger, a food trough, giving us this beautiful insight into his role and what he would eventually reveal to us as the Eucharist. Joseph was there to save Mary and Jesus from the rage of King Herod. Without him, there might not have been anyone to hear that message. Joseph was there to train Jesus in the profession that God had chosen for himself while on earth, to train him how to be a carpenter. And I think most importantly of all, Joseph, and we know for sure that Joseph and Mary, they were a poor family. When they, 40 days later, would present the child Jesus in the temple, they didn't have the money for the offering, the normal offering of a lamb. They brought 2 turtle doves. That's all they could afford. And once again, Joseph might have been plagued by that temptation of, I'm not enough. But Joseph was there as a poor man because God wanted his son to be raised in a poor family, to show us the importance of humility and the dangers of wealth. So Joseph was exactly where God wanted him to be and exactly who God wanted him to be. No more, no less. What we think was maybe 2 years on, when Jesus was around 2 years old, 3 wise men from the east showed up. And once again, maybe Joseph was plagued by these thoughts as these great kings brought in these gifts to lay at Jesus' feet. And Joseph's thinking, man, I wish I could give him something that good. But he could. And Joseph might have even been tempted to think, these guys are kings or nobility or sages from this faraway kingdom, and I'm a descendant of a king, but what do I have to offer him? Well, 2 last things Joseph could offer. The first was that connection to the king. Joseph was there so that he could claim to be the legal guardian and protector and father of Jesus, so that there was no dispute that Jesus was a descendant of David, fulfilling the prophecy that a son of David would reign forever. And most importantly of all, Joseph was there to give himself, to give all he had. And maybe he didn't have as much money or position or power or influence as other people, but he was exactly who God wanted to be, who God wanted him to be, where God wanted him to be. That is a very encouraging thought, and it should be for all of us. lest we fall into that same temptation of thinking that we're not enough, or we're not good enough, or we don't have enough for whatever we feel called to do in our lives, or whoever God has put in our lives. We need to dismiss that temptation as quickly as I'm sure Joseph did. Because if God has put us where he has put us, and we know that he has, then he's put us there for a reason. And he's put us there to do an incredible amount of good if only we trust him to bring good out of whatever little gift we bring of ourselves. And so, that's something I think we should keep in mind this Christmas season, that ultimately God's in control. And whatever we have, whoever we are, he wants just us. So, Merry Christmas from all of us here at Lancaster Catholic, and God bless.